Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the American Masterminds Podcast.
Each episode, we invite extraordinary guests who are masters of their craft. They're innovators, entrepreneurs, and of course, motorcycle enthusiasts who have made their mark in the world.
They share their stories, insights, and hard-earned wisdom, giving you a front row seat to the strategies and experiences that shape their successes.
So sit back, grab a drink, and get ready for an exhilarating ride as we dive deep into the minds of these exceptional individuals.
Along the way, we'll uncover powerful strategies, gain fresh perspectives, and explore the limitless possibilities of what it takes to be an American mastermind.
Well, Alloy's, we weld mainly railings, stairs, things like that, fence panels. It's a means so that I can build whatever the fuck I want on the weekends.
Oh.
All
right, so bring us back to this. We've been talking about, we were back in the dealership and whatnot. How did you get to railings? Because I know that wasn't the first rendition of the business plan.
Oh boy, not even close. I started with motorcycles and quickly found out that's a tough game. Especially in Utah, that's a 6-month game. And I love doing the motorcycles, but I also love eating.
That's important.
Then I kind of transitioned into, I got this place actually, and transitioned into being kind of Mr. Pinterest. I could do wood, I could do metal. Tough game still.
All the stuff the husbands, wives want them to do that can't do it.
That was kind of my open remark when I'd go out to these people's houses is, if you find it on Pinterest, I can build it. And that's pretty much what I did for 2 years,
Your husband can't do that.
Yeah.
I can.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And then I got into it, and there's a lot of math with railings, and so it kind of scared me away, but every building has railings, And so this contractor I know, and actually our neighbor growing up, Scott Eagleston, big shout out to Scott Eagleston, he kind of just kept feeding me all these railings, and I just would figure it out and fuck it up and figure it out. And, but then I quickly learned there's such a market for the railings. And then with the railings, they want to know if you can do the stairs. And my biggest asset, I would say, is writing checks that my ass can't cash, and then I go back and figure it out, And you do that a couple times, then you get a little bit more comfortable with it.
Good call. Fake it till you make it, baby.
What you find out is nobody knows what they're doing.
Nobody.
Exactly. These contractors, they like to have these fancy offices and big-ass trucks and this and that. They don't know.
But they can't make a square deck.
No. And what you find out is there's these architects and these people who went to school for years and engineers and whatnot, and they go, "What do you think?" And I go, "What?" I think we should do it like this because it's easier.
There's a lot less math.
Yeah, exactly. But that's how I got into it.
So you kind of, in the transition from that, I know that part of it is your customer base that you're dealing with. Now you're working more with the contractor side, where when you're doing Mr. Pinterest, you're kind of on the consumer side.
Yeah,
and
residential, commercial, The residential game it's what you get is a lot of talking. You get a lot of people who have opinions. You need them to make decisions, which is and you're dealing with designers.
Right.
We'll go into that.
Unrealistic expectation.
Designers are it's the biggest. What do you call it? Snake oil salesman.
Farce.
Yeah,
it's a farce.
Anyone can call himself a designer, and that's the problem. And they think that the harder, the longer it takes for them to make a decision, the more astute their services are, which is just a crock of shit. But then once you get into the commercial game, there's one way to do it. There's one way to build a railing. It's either out of pipe or square tube, and there's one way, and it's great. Everyone's on the same page. They call, in the plans.
It's like safety instead of aesthetic.
Mm-hmm. And no one's nitpicking the color. Is it too flat? Is it too shiny?
Is that what it is?
It's yellow. It's safety yellow.
Is the consistency thing like are there just standards that you're just fitting within certain standards, or is it kind of just like a industry standard, but it's not written necessarily?
It is an absolute industry standard. Yeah, for these apartment complexes, condos, and whatnot, there's 2 styles.
They have to meet a code,
yeah.
correct?
You're not allowed basically to fit a 4-inch ball anywhere in any structure. If you follow that baseline, you'll be solid.
How many 4-inch balls do you have in your shop?
A couple.
Good call. Good call.
Everything's 4-inch.
Really?
Yeah. So if you can fit a 4-inch ball somewhere, you need to put a piece of pipe there.
Is that like baby's head size, or?
So actually 3
Puppy.
years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, they, now explain this one, they changed it from 5 inches to 4 inches. Now, are babies' heads getting smaller? I don't, but it's for babies' heads. Which made them...
No, they're crawling sooner,
Mm-hmm.
so their heads are smaller.
Well, it also created a boom in the welding industry because if you apply to refinance, if you apply
you
for
had to
anything,
redo it.
you have to redo it.
And that's one of the first things that they check for code would be the stairs and the railings.
Yep. And when an inspector comes by, he has a
4-inch ball.
He has a 4-inch ball.
No kidding.
The crazy part is now with the stairs. So you're not allowed, if you know a measurement, a 3/8 difference in, so, you know,
In rise.
here back in October we did a 8-flight staircase, and you're not allowed a 3/8 inch difference in the stairs heights over 122 stairs. Now, mind you, we made a small mounting mistake, and we mounted one of the main beams that holds the stairs 7/8 of an inch too far east, and it caused a 2 1/4 inch difference at the top of the stairs.
Oh.
Yeah, 7/8 inch difference. It got. Now, mind you, it was -15 when we were doing this. It was the middle of winter. It was all ice, you know, but we had to fix it.
Rip it out.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do in that situation?
We get 2 big winches and we attach them to something very sturdy, and because what they go and they backfill it with concrete, you know. These were precast concrete, but still, you know, each flight of 9 stairs, you're looking at about 10 tons, you know, of concrete, because they're big stairs.
Jesus.
And so we take basically 2 big ass winches, hook them to the roof, and lift it up, which brings it in 7/8 of an inch.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. So you got that one all fixed and taken care of, and
course, you don't pass code, you don't get a check.
yeah.
You can't eat that week.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh. So
Back to Pinterest.
how hard, when you're out in the field and whatnot, you're installing these, explain us the process that you go through kind of from the beginning of getting the bid, your kind of method of how you do that. How do you go through the whole process of a job?
Well, you'll get a call from a contractor, and that means nothing, because nothing's in stone at that point. You'll go measure, you'll give them a bid, maybe in 2 months' time you'll hear back again after that, because that is the downfall to commercial. It's very slow, and things are very, you know, planned out in advance. So you'll get a job in January, and you might not actually build it till August, you know. So you got to keep the.
So it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
You're constantly.
Mm-hmm. You're always writing bids. You're always doing that, but you'll go measure, and you know, there are some formulas. This guy who kind of taught me how to weld, we call him Old Ben Mike. He was actually next to that dealership.
Did you ever meet Mike?
Oh my God. That is a memory.
Yeah.
That dude was.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he was an interesting one. Yeah.
Well, I think you guys would be shocked. We talk about probably once or twice a week for an hour a day.
Really?
You know.
That's
Still
amazing.
to this day.
He teaches me. Now he has no teeth and one leg, and he's a bit senile. But when that guy sits down to weld, he just knows what he's talking about. But he'll kind of explain things to you, and you won't understand it. And then like 2 months later, you'll be like, "Motherfucker,
There it was.
that's what he's talking about." He's like, what you want to do is you want to take a board, you describe a line, you describe a thing here, then you know your angles and this and that. You know, he doesn't use a computer, nothing. He just does it all in the back of his head, and he carries around this little black book of mistakes he's made in the past and how not to do them again.
Wow.
That's genius.
He says that's my inheritance.
Does this guy legitimately have one leg?
Yeah.
Like, actually, not a joke. Yes. He has
got
one
it.
leg.
And no teeth is also
And no
not
teeth.
a joke.
Huh.
And he chews a cigarette And I mean that quite literally. It's lit and chewed. I've never seen him actually take a drag off of it. No. It's just lit and chewing in the corner of his mouth.
He kind of chews it like those guys chew a cigar, you know. I think he eats them.
Oh no, this person
he
actually
rips the
exists.
filters off.
Yeah. Freaking wild. And wild. When we were in that building, quick side story, but we were in that building with the dealership, every week he would come in and bitch about the bathrooms and who was cleaning them every single solitary week.
While chewing his cigarette. And then he talks, well, you're probably the best impersonator of him.
He is. It's hard to do, you know. Jesus Christ. These motherfuckers won't clean the goddamn bathroom. Leaving their fucking shit stains everywhere.
That's what it was. I was like, I distinctly remember there being a piece of paper in the bathroom that was like, clean up your fucking shit stains.
It was 100% from him. 100%. I'm sorry, one more. Okay, but this one time, my mom was coming down to the dealership, and everybody was aware that this event was happening. We cleaned the shop up, everything. I even went over to Mike before she got there and was like, hey, Mike, listen, my mom is coming down here, okay? So let's just try to, everybody, we're just going to make it through this together, okay? He comes in. I shit you not, the first thing he says is the most, I don't remember what the joke was.
Vulgar.
It was the most
grotesque.
No, it was so bad that my mom, it was just even like so taken aback from it. She was like startled and started laughing, and he kind of chuckles and walks off. And he comes back 5 minutes later and he goes, I'm sorry.
I'm not around women very often.
Couldn't help myself.
Oh, God.
He never apologizes either.
No, that was a big deal.
That's
He
awesome.
apologized for this one.
Oh, I'm
God,
sorry.
That was funny. Oh, I'm sorry. That was too far.
No.
Anyway.
What were we talking about?
You got Mike on my brain. Oh, you're saying the stuff that you learned from Mike and the mistakes not to make.
How did that stem from the process of getting a job?
Well, you know, getting the jobs.
Oh, you were about to started telling a story about the dude who taught you how to weld, Mike.
Yeah. Couldn't tell you. But
they're all good stories.
Yeah. We do talk a lot often, but he's just got that knowledge that you can't, you only learn as you kind of screw things up.
Sure.
Because you never learn anything when it goes right.
Nope.
But I think Topher was asking me about the process of getting a job and whatnot. It is a long game, and that's what's so nerve-wracking about it. And then what happens is all of a sudden they're like, we need this in 3 weeks,
right.
And, well, we need deposits. But, these huge jobs, and it's really, and my dad has taught me a lot of basically just keep saying yes, and, even if you don't know how to do it, it'll make you nervous, it'll do this, but somehow you'll get to the end of the job and it'll work out. Nobody knows what they're doing. They like to use all these big words, call-outs and sheets, and whoever invented building plans, that whole system should be completely redone, because the people who write them, read them, communicate them are not the people who built them.
Yeah.
The concrete guy has no idea where the hell to put this plate because he can't understand it. It's
in different scale, engineer scale.
Yeah, but Cindy in the office does. Yeah. I don't know what good that does us.
It's crazy how you have to relate stuff on paper to the field. Mm-hmm. It's like, that's tough.
Well, and then the crazy part is two separate companies, I won't name them, but this new 3D software, it's not new, but it's starting to get used everywhere. And all the residential guys use what's called SketchUp, and they all love it, and they pass notes, and it's kind of like Google Drive almost. You can share and collaborate. Someone else can come in and add to it, and it's great because you can walk around and you can see, oh, that's not going to work. This is going to work. But these big commercial companies refuse to use it. They want to use 2D paper drawings, and they don't make sense because there's layers to them, and then you got to flip to page 245 to find the detail on page 2, and it makes no sense. And I said, guys, oh, no shit, you're having problems? Because nobody understands this.
Yep.
Nobody understands. And then they revise it, but they don't send it out to everyone they sent the original plans to.
Only
Yeah.
the person who was like, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
like, oh, here's the new
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
And so I send them this 3D model, which is great for the whole staircase. They can zoom in, they can see what nuts are going there. There's labels, they click on it, up pops a little thing that I've written on it. No, can you put this in a 2D format, you know?
That's wild.
Because it's their system.
Yeah.
You have to wonder. That's probably bureaucracy driven, right? Somebody has to have a job. This person has to check these plans. So you could probably speak to this. This is a government thing where they have to have all these different people that are involved for jobs and whatnot, and it just makes it clusterfuck.
Yeah, this guy has a salary to read 2D, so
Right.
do that in CAD.
Yeah.
We don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I know nothing about the process, but that is the only thing that I can imagine.
Yeah.
Is that it's just we're employing people.
It really is because, and that's half the job, those months leading up to it, they want to know, you know, how are you going to mount this? What bolts, what size of bolts, how deep in the concrete you're going to go. And you have to submit all these drawings of what you're going to do.
Do you have to turn drawings in civil engineer?
Yeah.
And have it all
They're called shop drawings when they're from someone that's not educated.
correct?
And that's, it's the truth. They look the same.
These dumb shop drawings.
Yeah. What we're actually going to do, though, you know, because the engineer will send you plans and then they'll say, but don't follow it, you know. It's all it is so they can submit
These are
something to
reference
the
only.
city,
This is reference only.
and the city can say, we think that's going to be safe.
Huh.
It's, I'll tell you what, if you take that bureaucracy out of it, you could cut half the time
Yeah.
down in building. It really.
And cost.
Yeah. And that's why in and out, you know, they just put that jack in the box over there. That's why they build the same building every
Yeah.
time. Because they don't have to redo all this crap.
That makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Well, it's like I read somewhere that in order to get a pothole filled in the road, there's 8 different groups of people that have to come and inspect it before it gets
It's
it
a
actually
real
gets
thing.
filled.
Yeah.
Nonsense.
It's a real thing.
That's wild.
That's why there's like vigilante pothole filling groups that are like breaking the law by filling potholes on
Well, it's
their own
like-
dime.
Those
But
bastards.
It's even worse. It's like somebody has to come out. They have to see. Okay, yes, there is a pothole. That's one person. There's a pothole right here, right? And then there's somebody that comes in that has to measure the pothole. Then there's somebody that has to come in and measure for the materials for the pothole. Then somebody that has to come in and make sure that that's the right amount of materials that they're going to order. And then there's somebody that comes in that has to clean it, and then somebody that actually comes in and fills it.
And you're just talking about the people that show up there. Then there's a whole purchasing department.
Yeah.
You know, I'll go back and forth on that with you because which president was it? Eisenhower, or who built Route 66? Because you know that's where all this stuff stems back to. He started building Route 66 to put money back into the government to give
don't
people
think it
jobs.
was
The
Eisenhower.
government started employing the general population.
Yes.
And it was a big deal. Now, do we need 6 guys to fill a pothole? No. But, you know, I don't
Need
know what
5
the
to
figures
hold
are.
shovels up,
Yeah.
and 1 guy to do the work.
But
That's government work.
Take out government work. That's
And then what
our
would happen?
economy,
Yeah.
You know.
That makes sense. And in construction, I mean, that's a massive job market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people that are employed and produce their living from that. So
And you wonder, is it intentionally slow?
I'm sure that it is to some
Because
level.
they could redo that road in a couple weeks. You know.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
Dude, I've had this giant sign up on my road. You know my road, that windy road?
Yeah.
They're redoing it. So they chip coated it and then they sealed it. And then there's a sign up that's been up for like 2 weeks that says this road's going to shut down for 7 days. So you're going to have to find an alternate route. That's the only way into my neighborhood. Like, that's the only way unless you go clear around Rush Valley, and like that's an hour extra.
Wait, road
Just-
closed or an hour extra? That's your options?
Right.
Wow.
And I'm like, so what? And then, you know, all over the internet, they're like asking questions. What's going on? What are they going to do? It's to stripe the road.
Are
I'm
you
like,
serious?
you guys need a week to stripe the road. Come on.
Here's a question for you. And now we're going down a road path, but why does not a Zamboni machine exist for roads? You literally just drive it over, it fills it over, and puts a little layer on top.
It does.
Yeah, they have that.
That's a thing.
Why don't they just use that when they have to go and fill stuff?
They do.
When?
Yeah.
But they got to have it approved by those 8 other
That's
guys.
fair. All right.
They bring that out, but that's after 2 months of assessment.
That makes sense. You're right. My apologies. Okay, so Landon, you get the job, you work all this process. When you're making, yeah, we could turn that off.
Yeah.
Beeping on us.
Money.
I want the little Venmo cash sound.
The real question that I would like to get on the podcast for this one is, so you went from motorcycles and you went from the Pinterest. I want to know the process that you got into getting to the bigger jobs and into the commercial. I know that that's been a big process and that you've just recently expanded to a significantly larger shop. You now have employees and everybody that's pitching in and doing this. You've even transitioned to a phase where you're kind of behind the computer and doing some of these drawings and whatnot. Walk us through that process of going from the Pinterest guy and doing stuff basically in the garage to now you're the guy making all these plans and whatnot, and the revelations and whatnot that you got along the way.
Big time.
You know, I don't even know how I got there. I do know how I got there, and that's people. It's people. And, you know, I know some other guys, some younger contractors and whatnot. Anyway, point of the story is they turn down jobs. They turn down the bids. They won't even, they kind of stick their nose up at digging a hole, doing this, doing that. And, you know, one of the contractors that we're talking about that does all these stairs and whatnot, I pissed off a designer, and he was the contractor on the job, and she just kept making us redo it and redo it and redo it, and and he's like, well, just redo it, you know, add a cost to me. I think I ended up eating all that cost, but point of the story is just going on bid after bid after bid. I mean, I'll go on 5 bids a week, you know, in the mornings, and not saying no, not to sound like some inspirational speech, but that's literally how I did it, is just take every opportunity, any phone call, any this, any that, and just doing the best job I could. You know, I didn't know how to do a lot of that. A lot of it.
A lot of it was learning on the job.
Exactly. You know, and you think, oh, should I know how to do this? Do other shops know how to do this? You know, but they don't. They really don't. They do the same thing. They're just 10 years ahead of me.
Yeah.
You know, and but you know, once I figured out how to do the railing, I figured out that can be the bread and butter of the whole business, and I can teach other guys how to do it. You know, I've got some young kids and they're enthusiastic, but you know, to answer your question, just
Well, why? Why is that the bread and butter? For the audience that doesn't realize what's going on here.
because any building that has a drop of over 30 inches, which is just under 3 feet, needs a railing. It needs a railing. Every single building needs a railing. And once your name gets out there that you do railing, mind you, in Utah, there's only 5 other companies that do railing. Most welders won't touch the railing. It's
Why is that?
the math. People don't understand. So I told you about the 7/8 thing. It's real when you're doing anything on an angle. You know, if you're off your math by an inch, that can change the angle by 5 degrees.
So these guys come in, they'll do a job, they're off by an inch, and now they have to eat the cost of the whole thing, and they don't make it out of the starting block.
Exactly. Some guys will weld on site, but that's a very tough way to do it.
Right.
Really tough way to do it. And your fit and finish never is good, you know, when you're trying to do that.
Right.
But
So
but-
your measurements, your tools of your trade, what do you take with you on a bid?
so I take there's all my tools, mostly my measuring tools, are for electricians. So when electricians set conduit pipe going up walls and whatnot, they
Okay.
use these angle finders that are digital, but they're not earth magnets. They're actually just level with. So you set it down, you set your 0, and then you set your angle there.
So it's relative to your starting point.
Exactly. And they also use this laser line level that sets out all. If you ever look up in your ceiling, you've got can lights, you know, and they set this big laser out that shoots, 5 lasers out in this direction, and that's how they know where to set their can lines, and I use that, and then you just hold your tape measure up until it hits the laser, and now everything's a triangle, so you got your rise and your run. Once you know that, you can find out your angles, your run, or your angles, everything
Right.
from that.
Interesting. Huh.
That is interesting.
So math. Now in
Trying.
high school, did you think that was going to be the formula for your success?
Pythagorean theorem.
Everyone now I'm not math at all. My twin sister did all my math all the way up to, I got in college. I got in college and had to take a aptitude test or whatever to place, and they just stuck me in the lowest class they had. I had to do 4 classes before they were even going to give me college credit.
Like, we don't know how you passed high school.
For those listening that don't know, Landon is a twin. He has a twin sister, Lexi, and that's who he's talking about. And she would go around. Did you even meet your high school counselor?
No, not once.
She
She would set us. We had every single class together from elementary school all the way to our senior year in high school, aside from maybe a gym class, and she would set it up. We'd walk together. She'd do the homework, But I was a writer. I was a bit of a writer, and I did the English and writing and stuff like that. But
So did you guys trade? Did you do writing for her and she did math for you?
absolutely. And everyone knew we were cheating. They just couldn't prove it. Of course, we live in the same house. We're twins. We have the same handwriting.
That's awesome.
Huh. Okay, so then you take all these bids and whatnot, you're moving through. Railings is the new gig, but that's kind of a boring side, right?
Oh yeah.
It's just monotonous, it's about how much you can produce.
Well, what you figure out is, if you want to make money, you're not going to enjoy it. If you want to enjoy it, you're not going to make money. You want to be an artist, be an artist. You want to make money, you got to do shit no one else wants to do.
But you probably get jobs where you're excited to do.
You
or
know,
you only do.
it's far and few between. The
Okay.
stuff I want to do is the stuff I do on the side.
Okay.
I'm building a sidecar right now for a motorcycle.
There you go.
know,
There you go.
that's the stuff you want to do. But
That's what fuels the fire.
I've
To
done
go
it.
build the handrails all day long.
Yeah. It feels good to know when you step back and you look at this thing, you can't even see the top of it, and you go, yeah, I fucking did that.
Yeah.
Me and a bunch of high school kids, basically.
It's within 3/8, baby.
Yeah, exactly. But I've done it where, you enjoy doing it, but you're not making money.
Yeah.
And I've done it where you're not really enjoying it, but you're making money. And what you find is that to re-engage yourself, you pay attention to the details, or you try to make that bracket better. And where you get the joy out of it is the product is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. We sand all of our welds. DA sand, which is a random orbital sander, which is rare, really rare, but it sets you apart. It really does.
Yeah.
Stupid things like that.
Sure.
That's where you find the interest. Or, the things they don't care about, like the handrail brackets. I've really gotten into the handrail brackets because there's no code about a handrail bracket. So you can really do whatever you want. They're upset when it's cool, but
I think that is that's kind of the key. I heard something relatively recently that I can't remember if it was on NPR or something, where they were talking about like how much of a person's job do they have to enjoy to be retained in that job to have good retention. And usually it's like 10%. If you enjoy 10% of your job, you are more likely than anyone else to stay. That's all you need is 10%.
It's funny you say that because I do say similar things that I thought I came up with. But
Yeah, no.
I say, if you
10%
enjoy
of your
this
job.
10%, that's not bad.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine because you're making money. The 90% is what no one else wants to do,
Yeah.
and that's why you're getting paid. The
Yeah.
10% is your reward for sticking through with it.
But there is something to be said, even though you're grinding that thing or you're doing it and you've done it 400 times that day, and it's boring. But I never wake up and go, God, I don't want to do this. Fuck this. That never happens.
Yeah.
I'd imagine that what helps is you don't have anybody to answer to. It is, at the end of the day, it's you. And you alone,
It's up to you to fail or succeed.
Exactly. Yeah.
which is part of the big drive to it, I would
Mhm.
imagine.
And when you get that big job, when you get that big check, and the job's finally over, and you get, because they break it up into fifths when you're on the contractor job or the commercial jobs. You get one when you get the job. You get one when you submit your plans, and so on and so forth. And you finally get that last paycheck, which usually everything's paid for. Your guys are paid for. The shop's paid for. That's usually my money. That last check. That's when you put a smile on your face and
Yes.
you dance
And
off
you
to
go
the bank.
work on the sidecar.
Exactly. You start looking on KSL for what motorcycle you can buy.
So working through this, tell us about because I know you've done mix, and obviously railing is not going to be your favorite project, but it pays the bills. What is your favorite project? What's the one that you've done that was really the creme de la creme for you?
So my very first set of stairs was actually a spiral staircase, and it was my favorite. I've been trying to sell spiral staircases ever since. They're not functional,
Right.
but there's no codes on them. Very minimal, because their rises have to be much taller than others. Basically, if you don't hit your head on it as you're walking up it,
It passes.
it's good to go. I would build an entire business on spiral staircases, but nobody wants them. Because if you have a spiral staircase, you have to have a second entry. It's not a main staircase.
Oh, you can't.
Okay.
If you have two levels.
That's a code.
Yeah.
You have to
Okay.
have
So it's kind of like this kitschy, fun staircase in the back.
Right.
But people don't like to throw 20 grand at kitschy. So
Interesting. All right. The other question I had out of this was, so I want you to give a shout out to your high school program. One of the things that I think that you've done that's really, really cool is you've made friends. And ironically, what high school is it? Because
Riverton High School.
Riverton High School, and they have a really good welding program.
Right. So it's kind of like the Mormon churches to the high schools here. It's adjacent but correlated. It's not on the property, but it's on the other side of the parking lot. It's J-Tech. And they have diesel, they have cooking, they have somebody was saying something else, can't remember, weldings, all sorts. But it's a whole thing that the governor is trying to implement to get kids to think more trade-like and less, endless student debt, and you have nothing at the end.
Lesbian dance theory.
Exactly. But
the trades are struggling to get filled right now. I mean, no one wants to work.
Well, and what's wild about that is it's been proven over and over again. Vast majority outside, if you take doctors and lawyers and like actual degrees that need pieces of paper, okay, or actual jobs that need pieces of paper, rather, the trade schools actually make more money, and it's a kind of been a lost thing, and they are struggling with numbers these days. And I know they're doing, because we had a Hank on here in his high school. They're doing the same thing. So is that something the governor's trying to put together?
I guess, and I didn't know this.
Statewide.
I kind of thought it was a nationwide thing, but after talking to the teacher, it's huge in Utah, and I knew it I never applied to any of them. I didn't really know about it in high school, but I knew all sorts of kids that were a part of it, and but it's huge in Utah, and they're really pushing it, and they're opening up new programs for even nursing, stuff like that.
That's awesome.
These kids can leave high school with certificates. And I'll tell you, these kids coming out of this, now I think this guy's a little special over there at Riverton. He's got, he's doing more of a job than they're paying him for,
Sure,
type of thing.
sure.
He really wants them to succeed and whatnot. But these kids coming out of these high school programs are very proficient welders, really proficient. He's teaching them all 5 processes.
Are you getting employees from?
I am.
Awesome.
So I'm getting my teeth cleaned one day by a gal who, now I've had the same dental hygienist for 5 years. Nicest lady in the world. All of a sudden, she called in sick one day, so they called this other gal in. And I'm talking to her, I'm telling her I'm a welder and this and that. She said, oh, my kid just is about to graduate over at Riverton, and you think he could tinker around with you on the weekends or something? You teach him something. He shows up. I'm thinking I'm going to teach this kid how to weld. He knows exactly how to weld. I said, well, why don't we pay you and we can build some stuff, And then he's like, I have friends, And all of a sudden he introduced me to his teacher, and his teacher,
Shake your hand.
yeah, he comes out and he's like, can we start getting these kids, when they graduate, because they graduate twice a year out of the program. He says, I want to get them in here, maybe not, this isn't a career, but this is a starting block for them
Jumping
at
off
least.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's been great. I mean, they have lots of energy, and that's really
Sure.
all I need,
Heck yeah.
And,
they can run a sander.
Yeah, exactly. But, I didn't know what to expect. I thought, again, I was going to teach him how to weld, but he's doing such a damn good... I'd imagine you go to these trade schools, because I'm self-taught. I've never taken a welding class, nothing like that. I just welded and figured it out.
And Mike.
And Mike. But, I don't really even know what it looks like when you come out of trade school.
Right.
But these kids are every bit as proficient to start a career. They could go into a career when they're done. So it's pretty neat.
That is a great program.
Mm-hmm.
And it's valuable. We need it. All the job market, welders, they're needed all over the place. And to give them a start in something like this, where they're also excited about what you're doing, you're younger, you got the, it's something that they really aspire to, and they're coming out, and then hopefully it works as a springboard to something else for them.
Sure.
Well, and on that topic, I don't know about, because there's a diesel program and cooking and stuff, I don't know about those, but there's actually a National Welder Society, and they're backing the Utah welders, these programs, these JTech programs. And so these kids can apply, and they can get upwards of $100,000 grant to start their own welding business.
No
Wow.
kidding.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, it's a loan, but they only have to pay back half of it.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, this, the national, I'm saying that wrong, it's an association, every welder's a part of it, even I'm a part of it, you pay $20 a month to it, but that proceed goes to things like this. It's really neat, because the two kids I got working for me right now, they actually want to get into roll cages and off-road chassis
Power
and stuff
sports?
like that.
That's awesome.
And they're, I think I like to think I'm teaching them a thing or two about the business side of things, and they got to be fast at it and really break the numbers down,
And what your plan is I know you have one, if you want to give a shout out to him, but you've got one that you think can be kind of groomed for this, but then your plan for the other one is to give more of an opportunity for kids coming out, and it'll be kind of a short-lived thing, and then you see them off to their next phase, right?
That's kind of the idea of the Riverton, because these kids, they'll go on to other things, You can only weld railings so long, especially if you want to weld other things. But
Yeah.
these kids definitely want to start their own business, and they can use that grant up to 5 years. They can apply for it after they graduate. And so that's their plan, but his mom's got a really good head on her, and she wants him, she said, no, stay with him for a couple years, learn it, stop being so damn young. But once they're done, yeah, the Riverton High School wants to just basically filter these guys in, maybe on a 6-month period as they graduate, and just give them some life experience. Hell,
That's great.
even if they don't become welders, they can
Show up to a job and go to work. And
show them some responsibility. And
That's great for you as well, because these kids probably get burnt out of building hand railings, like you're saying, in 6 months.
oh, absolutely.
You can filter the next
Yeah.
guy in, and he's
it's-
gung-ho and ready to...
It's not glamorous by
Yeah.
any stretch, but it is what it is.
That is cool.
And they're getting paid more than flipping burgers,
Yes.
yeah.
And they seem to enjoy it.
Well, it's...
Yeah, to your
The
point,
sense
the
of
experience,
pride.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The pride, I think
the
that's
sense
a
of
good point,
pride, accomplishment when you actually build something as opposed to working at the drive-through.
Exactly.
And I really think that that's something that's been lost on recent times. As somebody formerly, that everything I did was with my hands, and you switch over to a computer. I know you're building stuff and whatnot on the computer. There is a certain satisfaction that comes with doing something and
You step
seeing
back.
something, and you
Yes.
look at it, and it's a whole different level
Yes.
of accomplishment.
And you have something to show for
Yeah.
what you've done. And
You know every flaw,
Yeah.
yeah.
but it still looks pretty badass.
Yeah.
I think a lot of kids don't know that feeling.
Yeah.
Especially today, when everything that they're doing is done on the computer.
And something when you're building
phone.
something, you're screwing up every 20 minutes. And, you kind of get in adversity. You don't get mad about it. It's just something that happens. How are we going to fix this?
Right.
oh, we put that pipe somewhere wrong,
Yep.
But you learn that adversity and
Being
you
able to
learn.
adjust on the fly as well.
Mhm. And not let it overtake you,
Right.
either.
Adapt and overcome.
I built the most simple set of shelves in my garage the other week. I fucked it up so bad. I couldn't understand how I could fuck up something so simple so badly. Like all I do is build stuff on the computer all day, and it's so easy. And putting together 2x4s, I was like,
I'm trying to do the math.
there's
on
this
these
board. I
shelves.
have this board that I measured wrong, and so it's kind of at an angle, and that's like the central board that everything else comes off of. And I just call it the happy board.
Yeah,
It's just, I learned. I figured it out.
exactly.
So when you're doing this and you're going through, you found your niche to railing, and we'll see how long you take on this. What do you do to keep up in the welding world of what's going on? What's your process to stay in the know and the happenings in your sphere here?
That's an issue though in the welders world is there's a lot of egos. There's no communication between
No one
the
wants
trade.
to trade secrets.
Mm-mm. You got a job, you keep it close to your chest. Wasatch Steel is where everyone in town gets their and it's the quietest place you've ever been.
Yes.
It just sounds like clunking metal. Nobody talks, nobody shares. It's a problem. As far as keeping up with things, I always say I've outgrown Pinterest. I've outgrown the internet. There's nothing on there that I haven't built or wouldn't be a stretch in the railing world. There's only so many ways to put pickets. There's only
Sure.
so many ways to do it. Things
But
like
so that's kind of your main source is you're watching shows and whatnot. Discovery Channel I know is a real popular one for you, and engineering documentaries and whatnot.
Oh, I just eat it up. Documentaries and stuff, But I like to. So my fascination is big buildings, bridges, skyscrapers, stuff like that. The way they do that, the way they make beams with cross hatches and stuff like that. I've integrated that into railings and stuff. So I guess to answer your question, I stopped looking at railings for inspiration for railings. I look at bridge beams and the way the cables go and stuff like that, and for the inspiration.
That's cool. That's
Even
cool.
downtown here, we were huge into metal in downtown Salt Lake.
Oh yeah, the gateway and all that. It's
Well,
a lot of
Go look down at the posts, the light posts on South Temple, stuff like that. The building, I only know the building because that's where the gay pride thing is always every year, because it used to not allow me to get on the highway during that week. But that was the first place that the hydraulic crane was ever used.
Really?
No
to
way.
build.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
So Utah has actually a pretty rich history. Not as much as Chicago, but
Sure.
um,
In the steel.
in the steel
realm.
world, yeah.
That's cool.
I feel like
Interesting.
what you touched on right there is so prolific for any trade or any creative like for me, I feel like I could apply it even to websites or like what I do for my freelance stuff. Stop looking at what other people making the same stuff you are doing. Like
Yeah.
it's pointless. Look
Yep.
elsewhere,
Yeah.
and you're gonna get way more ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
To that point, do you always pay attention to handrails now? Like
I can't not see it. I can't. I see
every
it everywhere.
flaw, every weld that's not sanded, probably drives you crazy.
I can tell you about the 6 handrails just in this little area that have problems. The guy two buildings down needs to turn his gas up. That's all I'm saying.
Let's kind of change the way that you travel too, because I know you frequently go on trips and whatnot. So outside of Salt Lake, and I know we saw some stuff in Chicago when we were out there last. Where have you seen the best metalwork and whatnot? Places that just saw you, just kind of made you go whoa and look around.
The 2 places that stand out are Denver, Colorado, and Austin, Texas.
Really?
Austin, Texas has some now they're doing a lot of art down there, which I think, I'm not a metal art guy where you just take a bunch of junk and weld it together. That's not welding to me, but their handrails and stuff, they really are doing unique things over there. But Denver, they're revamping the whole downtown, and the stuff they're doing down there is really, really neat. But you can't beat Chicago. Chicago is Metal Town, USA.
Yes.
They've got so a little fascination here. They've got a press in Chicago is the only one in the entire world that can bend these I-beams, into the structure. And downtown Salt Lake City has a library, and that big curve around it, they bent that for that. Just in the way it's done and the amount of force it takes in this machine that was built in the 1930s, still operational,
And they're the only ones doing it.
They're the only ones doing it.
That's crazy.
Don't they ship those beams out like literally all over the world?
All over the world. That's all they do is bend I-beams.
That's wild. And the machine's been going since the 30s?
The 30s. It was designed and built in the 30s.
Probably with very minimal downtime, too.
Hydraulic?
Yeah. It's a diesel-powered hydraulic. So the
Wild.
diesel powers a hydraulic pump. Yeah.
The amount of force that has to go into bending an I-beam that's not supposed to bend.
Right. At all. And these I-beams aren't small.
Right.
These I-beams, you could stand up in them, It's insane.
Jesus. Okay.
Now-
That gave me some perspective.
Yeah, they're 6-7 foot tall, stuff like that.
Wow.
But if you guys, now that I've got your attention, let me show you something else. Over in Japan right now, or not Japan, the United Kingdom, they've recreated the I-beam, a new I-beam. Now think about that. The I-beams has been used since we started building buildings, really, since steel kind of came in there. They're calling it a W-beam. So it's an I-beam, but it's actually in the shape of a W. So it's W like this. Well, viewers can't see my hand gestures. But so just on a building downtown, the building's about an acre big, almost.
Okay.
A little over. Traditionally, you would need about 18 I-beams to support the floor, like that. They're doing it with 2.
Whoa. What?
The design is so next level. They can do, I think it was 16 or 18 I-beams. They're replacing it with 2 W-beams.
2 W beams. So how does that work? Because I know that what makes an I-beam so structurally strong is the surface tension around it, right?
Right.
It's the most. So a W, does it have more surface than an I-beam?
Yes. Well, basically, what it can do is an I-beam, if your I-beam is laid out straight, its force, if you're putting down force on it, it only can carry the load outside of the I-beam like 2 or 3 feet. So what this W-beam allows it to do is carry the force over about 12 feet in each direction.
Whoa.
It's huge.
And they're just coming out with this now.
Well, it's new technology because it's laser fused together.
Oh.
So basically, they have to heat the whole thing up, and then friction goes like this. The laser is what heats it, but it's got to be one uniform heating thing. And mind you, these beams are 100 feet long, 200 feet long, and then they fuse it into a W, and then there's a top and bottom plate. But it can carry its load like 12 times or 12 feet out in each direction, where a traditional I-beam you're looking a couple feet in each direction.
That's crazy.
Wow.
It's changing the world. How
Quite
they're gonna
literally.
build it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's an issue.
Go on.
The one they did downtown, whoever sent over the plans to the
All
United
back to
Kingdom,
Because they weren't 3D, god damn it.
someone made a mistake in the conversion from standard to metric, and the thing was like 18 inches short. You can't. There's no splicing and adding on site. It's got to be dead on, because it's one piece. It's not,
Right.
it's
So
not
they
fused together.
They either order new I-beam or order new W beams, or they'd have to shrink the building down.
Yeah, which they're not going to do.
Huh.
But there's so much load on this thing. You can't just get some plate and add on. It's really a simple design. You could make this out of some plate steel,
Right.
But the fact that it is actually one piece is what gives it the strength.
Right.
So,
There's no weld to break.
right, exactly.
Interesting. Huh. That's a lot of That's a lot of knowledge to get hit with right there, isn't it?
That was a good knowledge bomb right there.
There you go. I'm glad I'm talking to someone who actually, I don't have any friends. And so my girlfriend, she's got a bunch of girlfriends, and I start talking and the eyes just glaze. Most of them just get up and walk off, I'm like, it's a WI beam. What are you talking about?
This fucking guy's talking about W beams again.
Huh.
They're like, isn't it an I beam a W beam if you put it on its side?
Oh, her friends, maybe.
Smack.
I don't get invited anymore.
Not unless something needs fixing or welding.
Every time, yeah.
Or moved, I guess.
Moved. I got a truck,
Huh. Well, let's circle back for just 2 seconds. If you were to give us your pitch on your business, okay, what makes Alloy stand out from everybody else in your competition? What are the 2 or 3 things that make you different from anybody else that they're going to go and hire for a job?
in the blue collar world, it's reputation. And what you get with a good reputation is not anything to do with your work. It's about, do you answer your phone? Do you ghost people? And do you do what you say you're going to do?
Show up to the bid.
Mm-hmm. If you answer your phone and show up, you'll get most jobs. All these guys get a bad rap, and the problem is it's small lake city. You get one bad rap and you're out.
Yep.
There's other guys that'll do it. And it has nothing to do with the work, unfortunately.
And that goes back to what you talked about earlier, just saying yes.
Saying
I'm
yes.
going to show up
Mhm.
and say yes
Mhm.
and handle business.
And they most of the time they'll rather give it to the guy that they know's at least going to produce a product, and not. I can't tell you how many times I hear, I gave this guy $10,000, I can't get a hold of him.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. And just don't do that.
And then you say, oh, well, I'll take your 10 grand
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Sign it over.
Yeah.
So showing up, doing what you say you're going to do.
In the blue collar world, really, that's all you have to do. It sounds simple. It's not followed.
Yeah.
All
It's
these
more
guys-
rare than anything
It really
else.
is.
Yeah.
It's really rare.
And then you expedite a job or two and make sure that it's there on their wild time frame, and all of a sudden you're a
You're the
hero.
man.
Well, and then once you do one job for these guys, because they're always doing more jobs, they got to make money too. What they don't want to do is call another guy, get a different bid, deal with this, different plans. Because you kind of get into their system. Is it the right system? No, but it's their system, and you learn their system, and they don't want to teach someone else their system,
Right.
And they know where to find you. They know where to send your checks. They know how to do this, and even though you may be a little bit pricier than some other guy,
Yeah, but Landon shows up.
Yeah.
So we're going to call him.
exactly. And if there's something wrong, you got to fix it.
Right.
You just got to fix it. And talk about money later. Just go fix it.
Do you offer like a warranty?
I'm the warranty.
Like, do you say if anything ever fails, I'm your guy, I'll come back and
Well, that kind of gets into the reputation. In the commercial world, you got to carry huge insurances. I have $5 million, in case something falls, because you're dealing with staircases, and
Right.
and there is bad things to happen. But as far as a warranty goes, I am the warranty.
But to that point, just for those listening out here, there's a lot of science that goes into staircases. They're not just bolted to the wall. Most of them they're wedged in, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of structural that you don't even necessarily see, and certainly outside of bolts and nuts holding things together.
Mm-hmm. That's why there's so much planning that goes into it, because what you don't realize is as you wedge that in, your load and your force is 10 feet that way. It's on the other side of that wall, and they have to account for that. So that is why there's so much planning. But
a lot of people don't realize like the standard of a step, the rise and the run, and if that changes at all, like you'll fall down the stairs.
yeah, or just an uncomfortable step.
Yeah, and it's just awkward.
You see it with decks, wood structures, where it's there is a bit of play, but I can walk up a set of steps and that's got a small run, that's got a small rise, or old houses up into that attic where, man, you're just climbing a ladder almost, you know. It is interesting, you know, and you have to have that 7-inch rise, 11-inch run. Your number has to equal 18, you know, is the idea. But the problem is they say, well, you only have 6 feet to work with.
Right.
And somehow you have to
get up 8 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And still be within those parameters. What you end up doing is you end up dragging it long and going out on the landing, you know, stuff like that.
I'm curious, why do you think that is? If you, just based off of your, this is totally opinion, based off of your observations, why do you think there's such a prolific problem with people just like not communicating, just like not, or just dropping off the face of the planet, like committing to something and then not following through? Like why is that happening? Because I have heard that in every space. I heard that in all of my freelance work. Anyone who's ever dealt with a website guy has a terrible story about a website guy hanging them out to dry, taking money and then not doing what they promised. What is it?
You know, I think guys get into this job and all of a sudden they get all of this response for it, and people are calling them and they can't manage their time like that, and they think that by lying to the customer, telling them, hey, I can get it to you in 3 weeks, that's going to get them the job, instead of telling them the truth. I'm 6 months out, you know.
Right.
Is that okay? And people are okay with that, you know, but they like to say, we'll get it in 2 weeks, even though they just told people the past 5 bids, 2 weeks. All of a sudden they're backed up, they've taken people's money, and then time goes on. You know, all of a sudden they've called them 3 times. Now they're past the point of, I could just call them and you know, make up another excuse and buy myself a little bit more time, but it's already been 2 months. They ghost them, they take their money, and there's nothing they can do about it.
So it's kind of almost like you've got, instead of businessmen, you have people pleasers. You have people who are just trying to say what's going to get them in.
Yeah.
But the problem is you can talk as much as you want. If you don't walk the walk, shit doesn't get done.
But you don't get your next job, you know.
It drops off real quick.
Yeah. All of a sudden, you know, those guys go into different professions because no one's calling them anymore, you know. But then once you do walk the walk and you do the things you say you're going to do, there's several groups around town, obviously, but there's groups of people who do what they say they're going to do and do finish jobs and don't steal people's money. And all of a sudden, you just found yourself in that group, or 2 groups or 3 groups, and they all need a metal guy, they all need a tile guy, and there's always that pack of people, and they run around to each job together, and it's kind of cool. The network is really cool of people who actually do what they say they're going to do.
That's something I found for sure. Like, if you are just consistent with, like, if you just produce consistent work, you will find yourself surrounded by people who produce consistent work. And then all of a sudden it's just flowing. Because this guy's going to pass something on to you, you're going to pass something on to them, and then it's just keeps flowing.
And you can always charge more on a referral.
Yep.
It's always easier going in hot than it is a cold, you know?
Yeah.
All of a sudden you got a little clout to you.
So so how many, so you said you have 5 major companies that are your competitors, right? And obviously there's plenty of work for all 5. But how often do you think one tries to enter the space and then fails? How often does that happen?
I think that there's tiers of welders. There's the guys that run around in their truck. No, nothing against it. They probably make more than the rest of us. Maintenance guys. They fix dump trucks, Kennecott stuff, dumpsters, gates. But they're all mobile. You know, they're not doing math. They're just welding, fixing excavators, stuff like that. Then you get the middle ground of guys who have shops and stuff like that, but they just don't feel comfortable getting to that next level. And because the work's there, people will offer you these big jobs that you might not know how to do. And maybe I'm off on that, but the jobs are everywhere. There's open bidding, stuff like that. I think it's really just kind of a lack of guts to take on that first one. You know.
Well, that would be one of your secret sauces, is saying yes to literally anything.
Well, my thought is always, you can always say no. You can always give them their money back and say, I think it's too much, you know. But at the end of the day, it's a bunch of triangles. You mark it out. Worst case scenario, you fuck it up.
Do you enjoy that challenge?
Oh, yeah. The big jobs I really enjoy.
Like, it's a challenge for you, and
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like a what's the word I'm looking for? It's just a challenge for yourself, and if you can accomplish that, that's got to feel pretty dang good.
And I get off on being in a room where I almost feel like I don't belong in that room. You know, they're saying these words and stuff, and at first I was like, oh, I need to learn this vocabulary. I need to learn what these guys are saying so I can hang in the room. And after a while,
Fuck 'em.
you're like, I've built almost 15 over 5-flight staircases, or 5, you know, they're not stories, half stories. You know, I've built a lot of them, enough to say I build staircases. And once you do that, you sit in the room with these guys who like to throw a bunch of vocab out there, and you kind of go, yeah, you guys are going to ask me how to do this later, so.
You're gonna ask for my shop drawings
Yeah.
later. Sorry about that.
Well, to kind of piggyback on that too, so you have kind of taken a little shift.
And,
Are you?
And I kind of used to hide the fact that I'm self-taught, you know. I thought, oh my God, they're not going to let me weld anything, you know. And now I'm like, no schooling.
Yeah.
I built that.
I kill it.
How much debt are you in?
Well, if you as you kind of evolve through this process, you're taking more of a have you taken more of a pride in the design factor of it?
Oh yeah.
Does that become almost as much fun as actually building it?
It's almost become a second career or a second part of the business, because, you know, I've got really good. I took actually a college little class on the SketchUp thing, and the fact that you can create these designs and you really can put your, you know, me communicating my design to someone was always a problem I had, because I can't draw.
You can see it.
I can see it. I can't explain it.
Right.
I can't get them to feel what I'm seeing.
Yes.
You know, and I
It's
can't
gonna
draw.
be fucking sweet.
I
Trust
had
me.
a lot of trust me's.
Yeah.
A lot of trust me's. And then once I felt comfortable, and it's the confidence thing.
Sure.
This 3D design is good enough to show someone. It's good enough to send to these big companies. Then I started saying, wait a second, this is taking me a lot of time. You guys should pay me for this, you know? And once I started getting paid, then I could actually put more time into it.
Sure.
And then I really started getting into it.
Well, and being able to send somebody a digital design, they're like, man, this guy has his shit together.
It
like,
does give you that
he's
professional
legit.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
He's gonna handle this. Yeah, that's cool.
Because I remember the first time I got a SketchUp design, and I was like, holy shit, this is cool. You can scroll around it. You can, you know, zoom in. How are these bolts going? You can click on their notes and this and that. And I thought, I have to learn this. I have to learn how to do this, you know. And it does bring in revenue.
Huh. But it has become more of a pride also. We should probably put SketchUp in the, you know, for the AdSense on this.
Big shout out to SketchUp.
Shout out.
It's a
Looking
Google.
for sponsors.
It's a Google company.
It's a Google thing. Yeah.
Huh.
I remember using SketchUp when I was like 9. I used Google. This was back when Google SketchUp was just starting, and they made it a completely free service where you just go access it through your web browser, and it was really rudimentary. But I remember building like a teardrop trailer in SketchUp and being like, "This is amazing!
Yeah.
I could make this now." Yeah, and that's cool to hear that. Like now, because I remember I think a big company bought it from Google and kind of fucked around with it for a while, and then Google bought it back and was like, we're going to make money off it.
Yeah. We'll take our idea back.
That's really cool. So where do you see the Alloy going in the future now? What's the next 5-year, 10-year plan that you have now?
So you got to stop by my shop, and you know, as far as high tech in the welding world, because there's nothing technical or tech about it, but I've created actually a table system that is really neat, and I have 2 welders on these swivel arms that go past this table. But basically what I've created is this train track system that these tables can slide and do. I mean, it makes setting up railings and stuff probably in a tenth of the time, you know? So where I see it going is taking that same system and just repeating it down the rows. Basically, and I've talked to the Riverton High School, JTech guy, and he's going to send me enough welders that we can just keep these tables going down the row. This building I have actually has an opportunity to expand right next door next year, and so that is the plan.
Just keep on.
So how many bays do you think you can get in there?
Six.
6
railing racks, and you can build up to a 30-foot railing on it, and it's pretty neat. And the way I've set it up, these 4 tables roll back and forth, and they have all these fixturing holes in them and stuff, and basically, I mean, what used to take probably an hour to set up for one single railing, because you set up these guides and everything so your angles are on, the guys can do it without me there in about 10 minutes.
Oh, wow.
With 2 tools, they just have this huge angle finder. They know how to do it. Once they have that, they can lock in their blocks and weld away.
So how close are you to getting the high school kids to reading the plans that you draw up and sketch up and executing? Do you still have to be the kind of the intermediary to making sure that everything gets done, or are we getting them trained to a point where you can now really turn over these bays and start really getting them to produce?
It does. Each table kind of takes a leader, and each table would require 3 people, a fitter and 2 welders. But you do need someone with just a little bit of a head on their shoulders because there's 4 things. You got to know your height, your angle, your length, and obviously, how many pickets you're getting, horizontal or vertical. And they just kind of got to know that to set up the table. It's not the most complicated thing, but I have 2 kids working for me right now. One of them cannot figure it out. The other one, all about it. He knows how to do it. I don't even have to say anything. Hell, I rolled up to the shop today. He already had the next railing set up. I was just so proud. And I told him, you learn this system, I'll give you another $1 an hour. You learn how to cut, I'll give you another $1 an hour. You learn how to do this. You make my life easier, I'll pay you however much you want.
Yep.
The more you produce, and then I incentivize him with, for every foot he makes $1.
Oh, wow.
So, but, it's a mindset thing, because the other kid could take it or leave it. He doesn't care.
He's just there for the hourly.
He's just there. He doesn't even know how much his buddy's making more than him. They ride together. He said, you tell him or not, I don't care, but,
Huh. Well, that's really cool. I like that you have
I'm probably not going to tell him about this podcast now.
But that's really cool that you're developing and you're being an entrepreneur. You found a niche that you can thrive in, and now you're finding the different layers of it that you can add to it, and having a forward-facing plan. That's what a lot of people miss. They come up with the first idea. Your first idea, if you'd stopped there, you'd be.
I probably would have gotten another job.
Yeah, if you'd stopped doing the motorcycles, it didn't work, and the perseverance of pushing through and keep going until you found railings of all things.
Yeah.
And found that and move it, and now you've got a plan to expand on that. That's really cool.
I think it's really cool that you can give back to the community. You're going to start taking in these kids, giving them a start. That's not very many people can do that.
It's funny that it's like
pretty
mutually
great.
beneficial, but it is.
Well, I was
right?
just about to say, I get cheaper, a good welder goes for $35 an hour.
Right.
And these kids aren't getting that, but they're getting the experience, and I'm getting, enthusiastic labor.
Yeah.
Well, and for that, you're willing to roll through some mistakes and a little more hand-holding. And
there is a bit of that, we need to do this better. You guys got to focus on this. The attention spans,
Yes.
measure. Just
Twice.
Measure everything.
Measure twice.
Keep measuring,
Huh. But I would take that, that I have that same philosophy in my business, that I would much rather have young and enthusiastic and willing and wanting to be there than somebody that has all of it, but, getting them to do something, or God forbid, something outside of the norm.
I already know.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, the contractor Scott Houston, he has a designer, and not getting into names, but anyway, she sent me a welder, that was supposedly, but they were kind of down on their luck. They got fired, so they came in, And I was like, yeah, but they're wanting $35-40 an hour, but they won't cut, they won't grind, they won't fit. What the hell are you gonna do
weld.
here?
I only weld.
I have to hire 4 other people so you can do your job.
And I have to pay you way more.
Yeah. So what are you gonna do when you're not welding?
Well, again, that's why I would
I'll take enthusiasm over experience anytime.
Yeah, because when you go out and say, okay, we've got to go to Bear Lake and we're going to do this, and it's December and it's 4 degrees out here, you know, but you're going to make $500 more. Okay,
Yeah. Here we
bust
go.
up, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where you get the person that only does welding, that's all they do. They're not going to leave the shop.
Yeah. They don't want to leave the shop.
Right, and which completely goes against your yes theory that's gotten you to this point of
Exactly.
where you're at today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And mold them. And it's kind of funny because the one kid who wants to start his own business, you know, he asked me, can I go on the bids with you? You don't have to pay me. I just want to hear what you say to customers and stuff like that. I just get the twinkle in my eye, like somebody thinks what I'm doing is cool, you know?
Yeah.
Or somebody wants to learn what I do. You know, you can't help but think that you're the only one that has an interest in this or something, and then all of a sudden there's this kid asking you to puppy dog you, you know.
That's kind of when you know you've made it in a way.
It feels kind of accomplishing.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Now, mind you, you know, the new shop's only so old, but I'm still learning all these things and screwing up all these things, but doing it less screw ups than I was.
Screwing up way better.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's always
More efficiently.
more efficiently screwing up. Yeah. No, that's always the case. You're constantly developing, and if you're going through stuff and you're not making mistakes, you're not trying hard enough. You know, and it's from the sound of it, you've pushed that envelope as far as you possibly can. You know, and most people, like you said, most people won't. Most people won't push their comfort level enough to go get that big job, to even throw a bid in on it just to see what if.
Yeah.
What if you do get it? You know?
2 months ago, I threw a bid up on the Capitol building, you know.
Did you really?
There's 140 bids on it from around the country, but why not? What if?
That'd be wild.
That would be cool.
Because at the end of the day, it's just a bunch of
Have you heard
shapes.
back about it?
Oh, no.
It takes
No,
a while.
I won't get it, but
You never know.
you never know. You never know. That's the thing. You know,
Yeah.
what if? And if they call you back, all of a sudden you think, you get that what is that? Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, imposter syndrome. Big
Imposter
time.
syndrome.
That's with the promotion that I just got. It was the same thing. Like I interviewed for it just because that's what I do. Like if I see something that's like, oh, that's a lofty goal to set to try to get that. Like let's just throw my hat in the ring and see what happens. I got that call like 4 or 5 days later. I was like, is this a mistake? Is it a joke? Because I'm like tight with the guy who
You know who you called, right?
Yeah. It was like,
Is this you, Jim?
are you fucking with me right now?
Who put you up to this?
But he was like, no, really, you're gonna do great. I was like, shit, all right, cool. But I think to your point, like you usually don't find what's gonna be like your bread and butter until it's the last place you look.
Yeah.
Yeah. With railings for
Mhm.
you, right? Like it's always the last place you look, and that's where you find it.
Well, and it's also the thing I used to avoid the most because I hated doing it because I didn't know how to do it. You know,
Yep.
you hate doing things you don't know how to do.
Which is usually a very good indicator of finding a niche, by the way.
Yeah.
If you don't
Right?
like it and it's hard, and there's a lot of other
Right.
people that don't like it and it's hard, that's probably a good place to start
You
looking.
found something
Yeah.
lucrative.
Right.
People are gonna pay.
You can always
And
make money.
everywhere needs stairs and railings.
Yeah. Well, and you can always make money doing stuff no one wants to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what you get is nobody
Charge.
wants to go through all the hoopla that these big companies want to put you through. They don't want to submit the 15 plans and have the meetings and do this and do that. Yeah. You got to go through some shit.
So now when you're out and about, do you like enjoy going on the bids now? Now that you've got because I just imagine when you started, it was very nerve-wracking
Very
to
nerve-wracking.
go on this.
I get this dry mouth and I start talking real fast and stuttering and, you know, now what you learn is just shut up. Shut up. Everyone thinks you know something.
Let that guy talk you into the job.
Yeah. Like, once you have that mentality of convince me to do the job, I'm not going to convince you for me to do the job.
Yeah, why should I do this
Yeah,
job?
this is a lot of work.
I'm busy.
You guys are a pain in the ass. And I hear you slow pay. That's a term that guys in the industry use when contractors, they pay them, but it's down the road, And you slow
Net 360.
Slow paying son of a bitch.
It is. He's a nice guy, but he's a slow payer,
Huh.
But once you get that chip on your shoulder, it's a fake chip at first. Still, to be honest with you. But
Great chip to have.
it's a
though.
better chip than a nervous chip.
Sell me on your job.
Yeah.
It's very valuable. That's a hard transition for most people to make, and making the mental shift, and part of it, the fake it till you make it, being able to act that way even when you don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge proponent of how people get ahead in life.
And to that point, you're bidding a job, and back in the day, and you got $200 in your bank account. You're not really sure how this is going to work, but putting that aside and being able to bid the job not out of desperation, and even though shit isn't going real well, but
Yeah.
you don't ever do it out of desperation, because I've been down that road. You end up usually not getting the job, or you do get it, and it costs you money at the end of the day.
Well, I think that's one of the things that most people don't understand. They if you're there and you're in that desperation mode, what you end up doing is you end up selling money, right? And if you're selling money, and more times than not, they don't pick the cheapest bid just because it's the cheapest.
Absolutely.
There is an element in there of that people want to feel like they're paying for what they get.
Yeah.
And that's a really hard lesson especially when you're hungry and you're desperate,
When you need money.
When you need money.
Yeah.
And to act that way. I'm sure you've got story after story about this.
Oh yeah. And you just learn not to show it, at least. Sure, maybe you don't have the money in the bank or whatever, but don't sell the money. Don't talk about money. When you're bidding, money is almost irrelevant. They want to know if you're going to get the job done.
Right.
And
Especially these commercial guys.
yeah, but I've been caught talking money. In the beginning, I was talking money, and I think they sense it. And they sense that desperation, and all of a sudden you don't get the phone call.
Right.
But you're the guy like,
Well, I would
you.
imagine it probably
I don't want your
leads,
fucking job.
I would imagine it probably leads to a distrust factor. When you're giving off that vibe and you're trying to cut the corner on the price to get the bid, what else are you going to cut the corner on?
Yeah.
You
can buy cheap bolts now.
right.
To
save a penny on this.
Yeah. And also, and I've told Topher this before off air, but if you bid the job to get the job done right, and to allow yourself the time and the materials, and you're not trying to dig through the scrap bin to finish the job, you're going to produce a better job. They're going to be happier, and you're going to get bigger jobs down the road. And you're going to lose jobs but if they can afford you to do the job right and to do it the way you want to do it and the way you need to do it, the right way, so it doesn't rust, so it doesn't do this. If they can't afford that, and if they want to go with Joe Schmo who's going to take their money, fine.
Right.
Fine. I don't need your job. And once you have that mentality, you get the job. It's the most insane thing.
It's a really tough one to get over, though. Then that's not uncommon for a lot of people. Be proud of your work. Know what you're worth. Know what it takes for you to do what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, knowing your worth. It's
a huge one.
And these kids, teaching them that, that's probably the biggest hurdle we've had to overcome. Yeah, this part of the stair is going to go in the back corner. No one will ever see it. Doesn't matter.
But
Doesn't
you know
matter.
it will.
We will. Every grind, every weld, we sand everything. We do everything, because our stamp is on it.
Yes.
Our pride is on it. They've paid us to do all of it, not cut corners and not do this. And what's funny is all of a sudden the inspector will see your thing. And somebody important will be sitting over there, and he'll be like, I see that you took the time to, make a cover plate for that ugly thing over there, or this or that or whatever. And a year later, all of a sudden you're getting a call from that person who was sitting in the corner saying, hey, we got a staircase. It doesn't always happen that way, but it could happen that way,
Yeah.
Do you market at all? Do you market yourself? Is it all word of mouth?
All word of mouth.
That's what I find. That is the same thing for me, right? Everyone asks like, how do you get so much work? Do work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just keep doing it.
Just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Take the phone calls, but follow the leads, follow the leads and do that. But, as I'm progressing and as I'm very good at making things, I have this idea in my head to make this table system, and it's very efficient. And now all of a sudden I'm like, maybe the word of mouth is not as fast as we are, and it's starting to run out a little bit. So now I'm thinking maybe I do need to advertise a little bit. We're not quite there, but I can see another table system will be there. Word of mouth will not keep up with it.
Right.
So then we'll start to get into that marketing thing, and I'm dreading it because I don't know how to do it, but I know myself, and I know I've overcome bigger things than that, and we'll figure out how to market, and I'm sure I'll kind of enjoy it at some point because I'll start to learn how to do it, and then I'll know how to do it. And that's what the biggest thing you try to teach people is, just because you don't know how to fucking do it, just do it. Start it. Just write something down. Download an app. Do something.
If you think that like welders and tradesmen are crocks of shit, meet marketers. They are the masters of crocks of shit. That they are the masters of not knowing what the fuck they're doing and just being like, yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got this.
We got you.
Yeah.
It's just the guy who can keep faking it, But
No, that's so. One other thing I really want to touch on it, because I know you and I know the background to all of this, but it's not easy, right? It takes a certain mindset to get up every day and go out and put yourself out there. Walk me through your mental process. How do you go day in and day out where you're grinding in it and doing motorcycles, right? And it's not working, and you go and figure this out, and what gets you up, gets you through day in and day out? What's your mental process?
You got to elaborate a little bit more on that, because I'm going to give you a catchy answer.
Well, give us the catchy answer, and I'll diverge from there.
I refuse to lose. I want to be something. I want my name, not my name. I don't care me. I just want to be bigger. I see kids 27 years old. I'm 27, almost 28, and they don't got $5 to their name. We go out to dinner, they can't afford it. I've been stuck with bills from my friends more times than I know, but I want to be better. And all of a sudden you're not better, but you're doing it harder than they are.
Oh no, life has trophies.
Oh yeah.
It's money.
And,
Yes.
And even as I digress from that last comment, no, fuck them. I am working harder than them.
Yeah.
That's right.
I am, And
That's knowing your worth.
Mm-hmm. And even in the motorcycle thing, the furniture thing, the other 10 facets that I've come across, I wanted to be the best at that. And I just wanted, whatever I was doing, I just wanted it to be bigger and bigger and bigger. And I want me to be bigger. And that's what gets me up. I want to take on those big jobs I don't know how to do, because I know once I get one of those under my wing, someone's going to give me another one.
Yes.
And then that'll evolve into this. Will we be doing railings 5 years from now? I'm not sure. But, I just want to be the best. Not the best, but, bigger.
It's okay to say that.
I want to be bigger.
Yeah.
And I like saying I don't know anyone that works harder. I like saying that. I really do. I get off on it. Which is funny because my dad, when I was maybe 10 years old, I said, "What is your deal? Why?" He goes, "On my tombstone, I want them to write, 'I'm the hardest worker.'" And I said, "That's the dumbest thing I've ever fucking heard." And all of a sudden, look at me,
Well, look in the mirror. It's okay. No, I really do. I think that's really cool. I think wherever it was derived from, and I know that you have a competitive sport background as well, that seems to be a mindset that I see very commonly in athletes versus non-athletes, is that competitiveness. I don't care what you're doing, you want to be the best at it. Whether it was baseball, whether it was business, whether it's welding. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people don't have that mindset. To the point that I think it's even gotten to I think that's actually the mindset that people call toxic masculinity at this point. Okay, where that drive, that urge to be the best and do more and go get more, and
All of a sudden frowned upon.
all of a sudden it's frowned upon. But that really is, and I know
And
that.
I do get shunned by, my girlfriend's friends are lesbians, and they just love to rip me down because I work. I'm just the red-blooded American Ford truck driving motherfucker that no one never knows where I am because I'm always gone working. I can never hang out because I'm working, and somehow that's a problem. They, ask me for rent money,
Yeah.
but, they like to tear you down when you're at the bar having a drink, because I work too damn hard.
But then they're all but too comfortable to go ahead and leave you with that bill for you to
Yep.
pick it up.
Yeah. And all of a sudden everyone's gone. And
Yeah.
the bill's on the table,
Well, the Landon retired at 40 with plenty of money in the bank,
Yeah.
doing whatever the fuck you want. You're going to be laughing all the way home
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah. While you guys are all working far past retirement because you didn't fucking buckle down for 10 years.
Right.
That's all it takes. 10 years. Buckle the fuck down. Do what you got to do. Fuck them. You don't need to go drink and party and...
I think you're starting to see the pendulum shift. And I'll go to bat on this one. I think the first big bulldozer in that direction was Tate, and it's moving. It's making a comeback.
I will play devil's advocate, though. I think the reason that the pendulum swung in the other direction from the grind set, the work until you drop or whatever, is because there's a healthy balance to be had, and you can have a healthy balance and still be successful. Like, you can still deal with your health, eat real food, cook for yourself, like figure all these other things out. It doesn't have to just be all I do is work, all I know is work, all I live is work, all I breathe is work. You can balance and still be successful. It doesn't. I don't know if you have found some of that.
It's tough. Yeah.
I think the hard part with that is you find it's really hard to turn it off. 'Cause, like, if you're gonna have a
Either you are that person or you aren't that person.
I agree, and I think what the pushback is that mindset that you have of wanting to be the best at everything that you do is just as valuable as the opposite. That it takes different people to do different things, but the demonization of that mindset, it does need to swing back.
Right.
Because the world was built with that mindset.
Well,
Like,
you can
why
work.
can't I be just a hardworking guy?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well,
why
but
is
to
that a
your
problem?
point, you come home, you've worked 12 hours, and you're laying there in bed thinking, I just didn't get everything I need to get done today,
Right.
And so then you think
Or
your
on-
health, the food,
Or on vacation.
yeah.
I'll do that all the time.
You're like guilty about being on vacation. Yeah.
I'm like, man, I hope stuff's still happening. I hope I'm not going to go back to a shit show. But you do.
This is something that I'm kind
Always.
of, and I guess maybe the answer is if you could find that 10-15% that you love to do with your job, right? That would help it tremendously. But I don't think that. I think that who said this? It was Rob Lowe, not Rob Lowe. Who's the Dirty Jobs guy?
Mike Lowe.
Mike. Yeah, he
Mike
said.
Rowe.
Mike Rowe.
Like row.
Don't chase the thing that you're passionate about, because you're passionate. If I chase nothing but motorcycles, we'd never have a motorcycle. You know what I'm saying? But chase the thing that you're good at, and be good at it, and keep pushing with that, and have the mindset of you're going to wake up today. This is a Chael Sonnen quote, but the definition of a fighter is somebody that gets up, puts their boots on, and goes to work. And we've lost that somewhere. That was something, World War II came around. That's what put the United States on the map, was that mindset. Oh shit, they bombed Pearl Harbor. Time to go to work.
Yeah, put your boots on.
Put your boots on, get up, go to work, and good stuff will happen to you. I think where a lot of people lose it these days is that they have the mindset of like, oh, woe is me, or the victim mentality is really taken over.
Yeah.
And a lot of that victim mentality can be combated by wake up and go to work and just see where the chips fall. And most people that have that mentality do come out as successful people.
Right. And I will acknowledge to my devil's advocate comment that
You're the opposite of that.
No. I think I have had phases. I think you'll go through phases of like you're gonna work really hard. At least for me, I go through a phase. I'm gonna work really hard throughout this phase, and you don't. It's not like you acknowledge it before you go into the phase. Like, okay,
Also,
I'm gonna
you're
work
just
really
in
hard.
the trenches.
Right. All of a sudden, you're just in.
Yeah.
And you're just working really hard. And I think it takes the person who can handle both sides of it, and then come out the other side and realize that there's a balance to be struck. Like you're gonna spend your 20s probably grinding really hard. You're probably not gonna have a whole lot of balance in your life, but you're gonna find success that way. And then you've got to be able to step back from that and not continue to grind into your 30s, 40s, and 50s until your health is completely gone.
Yeah.
You have to be able to step back and go, okay, I found success. Now I need to start rounding myself out a little bit more. And I think that's where, and it happens on the other end too, where the people never want to work hard, never want to put in that period of their life where they're just like grinding it out, and then they don't find success.
Then they're 50 years old, they're still living in an apartment,
Yes.
and they're miserable.
Yeah.
Well, we're putting success on monetary value too.
True.
Well, they don't have motorcycles either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a big point there though,
My
right?
happiness is a huge part of the things I can buy
Yeah.
Yeah.
or want to buy.
But I do. I know people, my sister and her husband, they live in a small town, a small rural town. They were able to buy their house in cash for $20,000.
Christ.
They have 2 kids. They're raising their kids. They've got an awesome like garden. They've built out a great community for themselves. Their life is so simple, so easy to pay for, and they're happy. They've found happiness in the simplicity of it, which is cool too.
You know, but to his point of the balance thing, the more tired you get from the work that you're doing, the more you think maybe I should smarten up a little bit, you know, and the more times you just get to that like rock bottom, can't stand up kind of work, you think, okay, I gotta think more, use my head more and less hands, you know, and that is the kind of the transition of like, let these kids kind of do a little bit of the work, get behind the computer for an hour or 2 a day, and all of a sudden I can think clearer. I've got a little bit more time on my hands to think about how to make money, and you make more money, you know, when you think, use your head, work smarter.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point. That's a really good point. And to piggyback on that, always be looking around. And I know you're big into this, but you're always looking for opportunities and always looking for ways to improve and making it easier. Okay, is meaning make it more efficient.
Yeah.
So that you can make more money. So all that stuff goes hand to hand.
Mm-hmm. And I do think that a huge problem with the small business to, you know, the more efficient big business. And here's you want to get into it. The government's problem is they'll give you $1,000 to a kid for student loans, but they won't give them any money for a small business.
Right.
And the problem is once you go from that one-man shop that I was in, and that little leeway time, that 3-month period where you're trying to get something started, you're trying to get it going, but money, it takes a little bit of money to get over that hump, you know. And I was fortunate enough to save up some money and get through that. You know, I have people who told me I was going to hit that hump, and I did hard. But then once you get over that hump, you're good to go. But the problem is that little gap of time, and it's tough, and that's where everyone goes out of business.
But that's also where that point of the mindset, those are the ones that get through it. How you get through that hump is you wake up every day and you go, okay, I have to go do this. I've dug this hole, okay, I'm here. Yeah. I have to wake up. I have to put my boots on. I got to go do this, and I'm going to do it again today. I'm going to do it again tomorrow, and keep going until you're through it. And then you don't really notice you're through it until you look back and go, oh shit, we made it. I got 6 of these bays now up and operating, and I'm in the office all day now.
Yeah,
you know.
And a lot of people, I think you hear it all the time. They sit back. Well, if I had $50,000, if I had this, that. But Mark Cuban, I love Mark Cuban. Maybe you guys don't like Mark Cuban. He's like, you don't need fucking dollar, you know? You just do it small. Just do it small, build it up, build it big. You don't need to take out $100,000. You know, I know a guy who started this welding shop downtown, well, more North Salt Lake. He takes out $100,000, puts it all into machinery. He's out in 2 months because he can't pay the note. He thinks he's going to do all this stuff and whatnot, but anyway.
I think those are the talkers. Those are the ones that, like, for a decade are like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to be a welder. And then when they finally, like, when rubber hits the pavement, they've been talking about it for so long that they've hyped this big thing up in their mind that they're going to immediately try to jump into. And it's like, bro, you've been living a dream for 10 years.
Yeah.
You have to start at year 1 and work your way to where you think you should be while you've been imagining your life for the last 10 years as opposed to living it.
Right.
It's just,
But again, to me, it all comes back down to it, because I don't care if you're an athlete, I don't care if you're whatever you're doing. If you deploy the mindset that you have, that's how you get the stuff that comes with it. It's that wake up and go to work.
but not so much that. It's, look at all the big wigs of our time. They just didn't stop when they failed in its adversity, I think. It's not about hard work. It's not about that. It's that they just, you know, a little hiccup in the road didn't stop them. They just, I love Arnold Schwarzenegger. He came out with this documentary, you know, he's like, I didn't win, I just went back. I didn't win, just went back. There's no weights in my town, I just made weights, you know. It's like, nothing's impossible.
No, it's really good.
Pretty good Arnold impersonation.
Spot on, Arnold.
Best I've heard all day.
That's really cool. Landon, I really appreciate you coming on and giving us an insight into your business and everything that you have going on. We'd love to have you on more and do more, because I know you've got a lot of other subjects that we could go into.
Oh, yeah.
But I hope you're going to be a staple point on this. You are an American Mastermind, so we really appreciate that. Mm-hmm. So thank you very much for coming on. Thank you, everybody, for listening this evening, and we'll catch you next time.
You got to get me one of those shirts.
I'll get you one of the shirts. I'll get you one of the shirts. You get one of the. Get you a patch. We'll get you all sorts of
stuff.
Yeah,
I need some
garb.
Some
swag.
Swag. Yeah, swag.
Don't call it garb.
That was fun.
That was fun.
Oh wow. Really burned through that time.
Yeah. Welcome to 10 o'clock.
I thought it was 9.
How that happens.
That's fun.